Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm delighted to be able to share with you the second half of my King Penguin collection. Now these are gorgeous little hardbacks that Penguin produced, and this is the section after the war which wasn't affected by paper rationing. So Penguin really went to town and produced some beautiful little hardbacks, and that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so we start off with King Penguin number 39, and there is the numbered down in the corner there. Woodcuts of Albrecht Dürer. So I'm not sure who Albrecht Dürer was. This is a King Penguin I've not actually read. This is picking right up from Compliments of the Season, which was the last one we looked at in this series. So I've done this over 2 videos, published in 1948. The series is now being edited by Nicholas Pevsner, with R.B. Fishenden is technical editor on the series, and Jan Tushnoid, who took over in 1947, is sort of overseeing the actual sort of the design and the look of the series. And this one is very much in keeping with the rest of them. Lots of illustrations in this one, more so than others, but because they're black and white rather than in colour. But still incredible detail on these. We are now post-war, so restrictions on printing have eased a little bit, but they still carry on for a bit of time yet. But even so, Penguin produced magnificent titles during the war, so post-war the books, the quality just went through the roof. They're just fantastic, and this one is no exception. Look at the detail in it, it's great, isn't it? So it was K39, K40 here, Edward Gordon Craig. Designs for the theatre. Now this one, it took me a bit of time to track down a copy of this actually. It did get reprinted, so it was a book that was in print for quite a while. It wasn't a massive print run or anything. It was still, 20,000, then probably a couple of 5,000 reprints. But even so, the first edition, which is this one, took me a bit of time to track down compared to the reprints, which do seem quite common. So evidently, it's a book to be had on that particular subject, and you do find that with the King Penguins, that the little books that come out are just the sort of thing that collectors are looking to get hold of. Exactly the same as this. So a book on British butterflies, if you wanted a book that was on that particular subject, this would be one that you could pick up and you could have a really good overview of the subject. Once again, gorgeous prints. Their natural sort of history titles are just great. Although they do, their animal titles generally are on insects, so beetles and spiders and butterflies here. This is also the first book to come with a wrapper, so that's another sign of paper rationing coming to an end. This one's got a little bit of sort of toning to the spine there where it's been on the shelf, but it's still lovely to see. It lists a few of the more recent releases. And one good thing about the books from this period being in wrappers is that usually if they've had a wrapper on them underneath like this, they're mint, and it's lovely, isn't it? Lovely to have them like that. But as a rule, if a book came with a wrapper, generally speaking, I've tried to get a copy for my collection with a wrapper. So that was my sort of rule of thumb with these. I wanted to get them in as good a condition as possible, and also if the book was issued with a wrapper, and a lot of them weren't, it should have its wrapper. So this one here is British military uniforms. Really nice sort of fun cover on that one. Bit like the modern Osprey series, aren't they? The Men-at-Arms series. Early form of that. Then the history behind them. Perfect format for the King Penguins. 1948. A Prospect of Wales. Kenneth Roundtree and Gwyn Jones, K43. Some great design on these, there really is. And these tail end half, I think, are my favourite. I do prefer them rather than the earlier books. I mean, they're just better produced, aren't they? As we'll see. This is a great one as well, Tulipomania. And it was a book that, again, this one's in a wrapper. It was a book that I read again recently during lockdown. And it was one of those titles, it looked at the demand and like hyped up market for tulip bulbs in the Netherlands, and how they were going for some incredible prices. It's an absolutely fascinating period. It really is bizarre. But they were being bought and sold like commodities, like shares almost, you know. Once again, this was another one that took me a little bit of time to find in a dust wrapper, but I got one in the end, and it's not the mintest copy, but it is certainly a good fun read, and one that I would recommend, because it's a really interesting story about the tulip mania that hit Europe back then. This is King Penguin 45, Unknown Westminster Abbey. Bit of a thicker one, this one, and lots of pages to it. Lawrence Tanner, 1948. Bit of an unusual subject, I suppose, but sort of thing that would go alongside the Buildings of England series, and I guess it definitely had its interest. Possibly people visiting Westminster Abbey. You can sort of imagine this in the gift shop, couldn't you? Number 46 then, Highland Dress. A tartan cover there. Oh, and this is another one with a little King Penguin's bookmarking. Must have been come with it from back in the day. Certainly the books are the ones around this period here. British military uniforms, for example. I'll pop that one back in once we've had a little look through. So these are the plates. Different Highland dress. Lovely illustrations there. Nice to have another bookmark inside, that's always a bonus. Number 47, British Reptiles and Amphibia. Malcolm Smith was the author. 1949, this one. Not too many illustrations on that. In fact, quite a thin little volume, that one. This is one I think it's fairly easy to get hold of. Number 48, a book of scripts. This one's in a dust wrapper. 3 shillings now. Different, well, they call them scripts. We call them typefaces, I guess, and fonts. Nicely illustrated book, but I guess because it's black and white, they were able to go to town a little bit more on the size of it. That was 1949. Nice copy of that one in its dust wrapper. British Beetles, number 49. Another slightly scarce one, this, some British Beetles. I think, once again, probably because it's a definitive book on the subject. And the illustrations, absolutely fantastic. Really, really detailed. Beautiful for a 70-year-old book. And that's what makes these so attractive. And that's why, you know, even sort of £5 to £8 for a copy of that, when you think of its age, it's an absolute bargain, really. Popular art in the United States was King Penguin number 50 of the 76. Some colour, it's got some photographs as well. Some Native American art. There we are. Erwin O. Christensen. 1948 again, that one. Now, number 51 here, this is actually my all-time favourite King Penguin book, Life in an English Village. I absolutely love this one. I'd say this one, The Bayeux Tapestry and Tulipomania are my three top ones. And this particular one, it's got illustrations by Edward Baldwin, who I particularly like. Not as many as I would like in the book, but they are there. And he's such a great illustrator, isn't he? I really, really enjoy his work. He did a lot for the London Underground. I mean, he was a master of design. Edward Baldwin is his name. Quite a good association with Penguin over the years. There we are. Introductory essay by Noel Carrington. Lovely. Very, very nice. This is one of the more expensive ones in the series, and copies of this generally go for £30 to £40. So be aware, although it's very, very nice, it's also quite an expensive one. Number 52 in dust wrapper is The Isle of Wight. Another popular title. (1950). Lovely. 53 here in wrapper, Flowers of the Meadow. Another gorgeous book. They feel so nice in the hand, and as I said, even just zooming through these, reading them, they're just great. Really, really good. They're just so well produced. I mean, they won awards. They won National Book Awards because they were that well produced. They just didn't ever sell in the numbers that Penguin really wanted. Greek Terracottas, number 54, also in dust wrapper. And I know not every single title is perhaps like this. It's only going to have a fairly limited audience appeal. Some of them, they could have done other subjects which might have appealed more. There is a fantastic book which we'll have a little look at in the end, which was published. It was written by Michael Lake. It was published through the Penguin Collectors Society, and it's a real in-depth study of the King Penguin books with like print runs and artists and what have you. And there is like a double-page spread of proposed titles that never actually saw print, and I found this quite fascinating to look at. This is another sought-after one, early British Railways. And there were a couple of titles I thought, they would have been good. One of them was a book on tarot cards, of all things. I thought that would be quite interesting. Another one was looking at the artist Pablo Picasso. I wouldn't have minded seeing that one. And you can imagine that those particular books would have ended up to have been a couple of quite collectible ones in today's market. But there was lots of other ones, lots of other natural history titles and things like that. Mosses, this one's got a little bit of fading on the front here onto its dust jacket. But a few of these, I've just tried to finish the set, and I have got, like any collection, a few that I'd like to upgrade. But, when I'm out and about, sometimes I come across them second-hand in nice condition and not too expensive, and then I generally tend to pick them up to have as swaps. This is a Book of Ducks. I think this one's quite scarce as well, It's a very specialist subject, but very, very nicely produced, like all these King Penguins. They're just exquisite to look at. 1951. This is another nice one. Ackerman's Cambridge. Lots of detail in this, as I recall. History of the various colleges and buildings. With a write-up to each one. Lovely. First published 51, this one. Very nice. This is another actual favourite of mine. This one looks at the crown jewels, number 60. I think this one's fairly common to find, so you won't have a job getting hold of this one. I'll tell you another one which I would have loved to have seen produced. I don't think it was on the list of proposed titles, was one looking at the work of Carl Fabergé. That would have been fantastic. That would have made a good king penguin, wouldn't it? Maybe someone should come up with one in the king penguin format. John Speed's Atlas of England and Wales. I think they were all in wrappers after this point onwards. Different maps and atlases of a historical nature there, lots of them. And the detail again. So that seems to be the format. You know, you've got the pictures at the back and the accompanying text to go with each picture to reference them. This is the very first one I got ever in the King Penguin series. It's my original one, so I could use a better copy in wrapper, but medieval carvings in Exeter Cathedral, which is just up the road from me. And I used to manage the bookshop which was opposite Exeter Cathedral for a few years. (1953), this one. Book of Greek Coins, number 63 now. Lovely book, this one for the numismatists. Fascinating subject, old coins. I wouldn't begin to start collecting them, but I think they're lovely to look at, particularly in the flesh, as it were. Those in black and white don't really come to life very well, do they? But it's a fascinating old subject, much more interesting than stamps, in my opinion. This is another one which is usually around the £30 mark, to be honest, although I think prices have steadied a little bit over the years, but it's just an exquisite King Penguin book. It's just lovely. This one, Magic Books from Mexico. Look at it. The artwork is just brilliant. I love it. Absolutely love it. Such a distinctive style, isn't it? They're just great. Yeah, highly collectible King Penguin, this one. So definitely keep an eye out for this one. And my one's price cut. There is, I have seen an edition with like 35 cents on, so that did have a US release, and the only thing different about it was the 35 cents on the inner dust wrapper. Semiprecious Stones is next. It is what you would expect. Arthur Smith did this one. '66, Birds of La Plata. This one I kept seeing at a ridiculous price, like £15 to £20, because it was one of the tail end ones that I was looking for. And in the end, I got one for about £8, and in dust wrapper. So I was really pleased with that. Once again, like a lot of the Bird books, beautiful illustrations again, and that's why they have remained collectible beyond the traditional penguin book collectors. People who collect it for the subject. Another one on birds, number 67. This is mountain birds this time. And you know, I have seen people take the plates out of the books and get them framed up individually. I'm not a fan of pulling books to pieces, but I can understand people doing it if they've got a spare copy. This one, Animals in Staffordshire Pottery. Very, very popular range of pottery. I don't know how popular it is today, but certainly it comes in and out of fashion, doesn't it? And that's looking at particular Staffordshire pottery. Not something that appeals to me, but I can understand it has its fans. So companion to Ackerman's Cambridge is number 69, Ackerman's Oxford. It's very, very similar to the Cambridge book. Looks at some of the key buildings within Oxford University. Number 70 now, The Diverting History of John Gilpin, illustrated by Ronald Searle. That's a familiar name, isn't he? And he's a great illustrator, so I'll have a look through this. My copy's a little foxed here, but I'm not worried too much about that. This is almost like an adult picture book, isn't it? Such a great cartoon style. Yeah, 1953. Very nice. Number 71 now, another really, really sought after one, Egyptian paintings. It doesn't go for a fortune, perhaps about £20, but one of the more expensive ones. I really don't know why. It doesn't have the same appeal to me as magic books from Mexico. But I do love Egyptology, and as a subject, perhaps that's possibly why it's a bit more sought after. Very nice to see sort of the Egyptian sort of colouring on the spine there as well. Misericords, 72, Medieval Life in English Wood Carving. Well, that's pretty specific for you, isn't it? This one's in black and white, so it's a slightly thicker book, but they've got more pictures in, which is how they tended to do it. Very nice, 72. 73, this is one that I give out as a present. I pick up copies of this, give it as a present to any of my friends who are into cricket. We've got a couple of mates, and I've given them both copies of this book. 5 shillings now, brand new, based on cricket's got a very, very long history. And I think this is a really nice look at that history. £1955 now we're looking at. Yeah, so if you've got someone who's into cricket, it's a really nice sort of present to get them, a nice period piece, a 65-year-old cricket book. 74 then, another one, Woodland Birds. Beautiful illustrations again, lovely and colourful. Very nice. And unfortunately by this time the range just wasn't really selling, and it was on the verge of cancellation. So we got number 75 here, Monumental Brasses. And it's such a shame it never carried on beyond the 76 books. I just think they perhaps needed to do something, 1957, this next to last one. They needed to just do some more interesting titles, I think, and they could have easily carried it on. And then the very last one that got published, 76, was Sculpture of the Parthenon. 5 shillings. P.E. Corbett. He must have thanked his lucky stars. He got in at the very end. 1959. Very nice. Nice copy, that one. And that's the very last one. Now earlier on, you remember I mentioned this book here, the King Penguin series. It's published by the Penguin Collectors Society, and it's written by Michael Lake. And Michael studied the king penguins in detail, and it's a super comprehensive book. It really, really is, and I can't recommend it highly enough. If you're serious about the king penguins, then this is the book for you. It really is. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this second look through the King Penguin books. There's certainly some beautiful hardbacks there to enjoy. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it the thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing for regular vintage penguin book content, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.